I'm Rhonda Daly from Young, New South Wales in Australia. And 8 years ago, I had a life-threatening illness where I was diagnosed with meningitis, spinal meningitis. And during that time, I was guided I had to heal the soils and help others. That was a life-changing message that came to me, because even though I was a fourth-generation farmer, I hadn't thought that I was going to be healing the soil and helping other people do that as well. So we looked into starting a business, and we started the business Wild Living Soils. Living mean that we realised that the soils need to be living, the microorganisms in there to recycle nutrients and have healthier and more nutritious plants. So we started the business 7.5 years ago, and Wild Living Soils was formed. And that business was very successful and is still very successful today. But another life-changing thing happened when we got to attend the Advanced Composting Systems workshop in Ocala, Florida, with Midwest Biosystems, who taught us how to make a high-quality compost called humified compost. This was life-changing. My dad hadn't really been into composting at all. He was more liquid compost. So to learn the whole process of how a compost goes through breakdown and build-up was fascinating. But not only that, we weren't just taking a waste and making a waste, similar to what waste management people do. We were actually making a high-quality product for agricultural soils to increase the diversity of microbes and the humus content of the soil. So in 2005, we imported our first AeroMaster compost turner from the States and had our first workshop here in Australia about the production of humified compost. Now, of course, to make the compost and to use it on the soils, what all that is for is to make more nutritious food for society. And underlying all of this, of course, is for the health of society, and because of the growing population in the world, that we're not going to feed them with nitrate-filled empty food. They need to be eating nutritious food. So we were able to apply the humified compost technology to agricultural soils. So from there, we have been making the compost for 3 years now. And not only do we make the compost here on our own site, but we have set up 19 other compost turning operations around Australia, and provided the education for people to understand how to make their own compost and how to apply it to their soils and get the same results. Now, we circle Australia in compost turners, so we're just not in rural New South Wales agriculture. We're right up into the Ord River and to the sugarcane and down into Victoria and into New Zealand as well. So it doesn't matter where you go in the world, everyone's crying the same message, that the soils are depleted, there's no life in them, the organic carbon levels have been depleted from the overuse of nitrogenous fertilisers and from our management practices as well. So everywhere we go, we're hearing the same messages. We also see that we need to create local fertiliser enterprises in town, so we're not importing artificial fertilisers from overseas. As we know with peak oil, we're not going to be able to do that for very much longer because it'll be too costly for one. We have to become more energy efficient. Humified compost has the ability to balance all three aspects of the soil. Now, the three aspects of the soil are the chemical nutrition, the biological and the physical. Conventional agriculture has definitely looked at the physical management of the soil and mineral inputs. So they think if they just put NPK fertilisers and even reduce tillage, which is helping, that's going to heal the soil. But we understand that to get a truly healthy soil, we need to look at the three aspects, and they need to have the same amount of emphasis put on each of them, not more on one than the other. So by providing and making a humified compost, you're having the ability of providing diversified microbiology, the humic acids, the minerals, as well as what we're terribly depleted in is organic carbon in the soil and humus in the soil. So I don't know of any other product that does as much as the humified compost can do in the soil. Now, humus has the highest magnetic attraction to minerals known to man. So when you use humus with minerals, it has the ability to hang on to them. We know leaching, particularly in Queensland, into the Great Barrier Reef is a problem. Nutrient tie-up, nutrient leaching and nutrient unavailability is enormous. So the humus protects every little mineral with like an insulator to stop these lockups and tie-ups, and it hangs onto them. It creates a pore space and air in the soil that's needed. Now, if you don't have air in the soil, then you're going to have anaerobic biology and have lots of pathogenic microbes that are going to cause disease. So by putting in beneficial biology, creating more airspace in the soil, putting in the balance of the minerals, you start then to create the correct environment that the plants want to grow. So if you want to have a plant that has got a good root system and roots that are extracting nutrients instead of absorbing NPK out of soil water, then you're going to get the nutrition into the plant. Now, what that equates to is more nutrition in the plant, then it goes on to the more nutrition for the animal or for human beings and for our own health. And particularly because I came to this because of a health scare and a health reason, the food and the nutrition or the nutrient denseness of our food is vitally important to me, because that's what it's all about. And where it all comes from is the soil. So we've created this ideal environment for the plant to grow in. The roots can go down, they can get down further into the soil, they will be coated in exudates or soil, that's the rhizosphere. Now that is the most active area in the soil where microbes want to live, because guess what? They're getting fed. They're getting fed 30% of the glucose made from photosynthesis are put down into that root zone in the day. Every day they're getting fed. So of course then they're going to supply the plant with the nutrients in the amount and the correct nutrients the plant needs for the day. Now if you have naked roots, what I call them, they have to take up what's in the soil water. And nitrogen is one of the quickest things to be taken up into a plant. So it can exclude other nutrients into the plant. So you begin to get very watery plants, unhealthy plants. So when you look at it at a cellular level, you look at the amino acid, you need the calcium and the nitrogen and the sulfur and everything else in balance. But what we've done in conventional agriculture is to create an imbalance in the carbon and the nitrogen that's going into the plant. So once you start to build healthy cells, then you will build healthy plants. Well, guess what? You have healthy plants, you're not going to be needing insecticides, herbicides, every other side. And what is side? Suicide, genocide. It means to kill. So we need to look at, once you get a healthy soil, you don't need to use all those sides because you don't have the sick plants. And as I say, I think society is showing that the food that we're producing is not really healthy, because otherwise 1 in 3 women are going to get cancer and 1 in 2 men are going to get cancer. And it really is from what we're eating and what we're bombarding our environment with. So the humus compost in the soil is going to create the environment for a healthy plant, the healthy roots, the more nutritious plant. It's full of amino acids. It's got all the enzymes in it that we need for our own healthy growth. So what I see is that once we can balance our soils, get the microbiology in there and living, we're going to start producing food for society that they're going to benefit from. Rather than making us sick, we're going to benefit from that high nutrition food. From a personal perspective for me, being able to influence and our family and our farm and my grandchildren's generation, it's about keeping farmers and families on the land and inspiring them as well to move from the fear-based conventional agriculture to the empowered biological system where they understand what they're doing. And this has created a huge following for Bill and myself and Wildlife Living Soils, with enormous educational workshops and seminars and field days that we run. And I do feel that the energy that we're creating here is spreading out to the community further and further. We donate compost to schools to help children understand that there is life in the soil. And also I think if they can see their food growing, and they do bricks readings on it, and they know, or chromatography or something, and they know that there's a difference in what they're eating, they start to understand and will look after their body, and hopefully we'll get children who are proud of what they eat and who they are, rather than filling it through full of empty food that has no nutrition in it. But to me, as I say, I'm very passionate about what I do, and it tends to inspire the other people to want to have a go as well. 99% of our customers, I will not sell on yield or production or increased production, because I truly believe they've got to have that change to understand that even if you want to get the same production for that year, they're doing something to build for future generations and for their own health as well. So I'm very fortunate to have customers who don't say, oh, will this increase my yield, or what will this do? I don't like working with people like that. I have a very high level of integrity for my business. I choose not to work with people who don't have the same level of integrity, because I think this is what we're doing for the planet has to have high levels of integrity. And even though we willingly give much of our knowledge free, and I always will, I believe that knowledge and that IP of people has to be respected. And you have a level of respect, we need a level of respect for nature, but also a level of respect from where it came from as well. So we have to have that level of respect and understanding of people and where they're coming from. It is a conscious change, and I never thought that in a short time that we have that our business would grow quite so big, and to be meeting people from all over the world who are inspired to make such a huge change and benefit the health of society. There's a quote that says, America will die on a full stomach. And to me, that means that they will have the food to eat, even though we are talking food shortages, but the quality of the food will be so poor that they'll be actually hungry. The minerals will not be there that will build them up and build healthy bodies. And, you know, we're not just a body, we're a soul as well. So we need that input of good nutrition and good energy to create the total holistic body.